Today, I'm sharing a horror movie. It's part of a horror series. The main character, Sydney Wells, is a beautiful and intelligent woman. An accident left her blind in both eyes. Her sister, Helen, encouraged her to get a cornea transplant surgery. Sydney agreed to the procedure. A few days later, the surgery was done. Sydney woke up in the hospital. A nurse named Lisa came to see her. Lisa was also a patient there. Sadly, Lisa had a tumor and passed away soon after meeting Sydney. When the doctor took off Sydney's bandages, she saw a black shadow. That evening, a strange sound woke her up. She turned and saw a black shadow standing by the bed next to hers. The shadow seemed to take an old man out of the ward. Sydney shouted for the man, but he and the shadow were gone. She got up and chased after them, feeling something was wrong. She didn't find anything at first. Then, a woman appeared not far away, standing still. Sydney started to walk toward her to check. Before she could get close, the woman disappeared. Sydney froze, shocked. Suddenly, the woman appeared right in front of her. Sydney reached out to touch her, but when their hands met, the woman vanished in a strange way. The next morning, Sydney asked about the old man. The doctor told her he had died. Sydney was confused because she saw him leave the ward the night before. She stayed in the hospital for a few more days. Before she left, Lisa had suggested taking a picture together, so Sydney did. After being discharged, Sydney went home. She played her violin alone one evening. A sudden sound came from the oven. Curious, she opened it. Flames burst out and surrounded her. Sydney screamed, but then she woke up. It was just a nightmare. She checked her clock to calm herself down. One day, while studying her music score, Sydney noticed a black shadow behind her. She got curious and opened the door to look outside. No one was there. She kept walking and stopped when she saw a child in a raincoat lying on the ground. Though scared, she said hello to the boy. They talked for a moment. Then, a noise distracted her. When she turned back, the boy was gone. That night, at 1 a.m., Sydney had a weird dream. She heard bells ringing and saw a little girl in pain. She woke up suddenly. Her house started changing around her. It felt like two different homes switching back and forth. Sydney thought it was an illusion. She stood up and saw a chair move. She reached out to touch the shifting walls. Everything snapped back to normal. Startled, she looked at the clock. It was 1:06 a.m. The next day, Sydney went to her doctor, Paul. She told him about all the strange things she'd seen. Paul checked her eyes and said she might be having hallucinations. Sydney insisted the things she saw were real. Paul didn't believe her. Later, at home, Sydney was watching TV. White smoke appeared in the room. She got up to check it out. Looking through the peephole, she saw a figure standing in the mist. She blinked and it was gone. She turned around. Her house was full of smoke now, and she heard voices. The smoke got thicker. Sydney couldn't breathe. She rushed to the door to escape. Instead of getting out, she found herself in a strange room. People were screaming, and fire was everywhere. A man ran toward her and grabbed her arm. Sydney woke up again. It was another nightmare. She looked at her arm. Strange hands appeared on it, then faded away fast. Scared, Sydney ran downstairs to call her sister, Helen. Helen didn't pick up the phone. While waiting, a woman walked right through Sydney's body. Sydney stared, shocked. She noticed a car outside and saw the same woman she'd seen before. The woman vanished again. Sydney turned around. The woman reappeared next to a devil-like figure. The figure seemed to take the woman away. Both disappeared. Terrified, Sydney ran into a nearby Chinese restaurant. She called Helen again and left the restaurant's address on her voicemail. She hoped Helen would come soon because she was so afraid. After hanging up, the menu on the table glowed. Sydney looked at the chef, but he didn't notice. The glow grew brighter. Suddenly, the whole restaurant exploded. When Sydney opened her eyes, she was in ruins. Paul showed up as she was about to leave. She told him what happened. Paul was stunned. He said the restaurant had been closed for years. Sydney couldn't believe what she heard. Paul thought Sydney's mind was breaking down. She was too tired to argue with him. She decided not to go home yet. She got into an elevator. A man appeared inside with her. Sydney glanced at the monitor, but it didn't show him. A couple stepped in. The monitor still showed no man. Sydney switched to another elevator. Everything seemed fine at first. Then she saw the man's figure again. She turned. He was right behind her, getting closer step by step. Sydney panicked and pressed the buttons fast. Just as he reached for her, the doors opened. She bolted out. On her way home, she saw the boy in the raincoat again. She just wanted to get inside, so she ignored him. When she looked back, he was gone. As she reached her door, the boy appeared behind her, following her. Sydney hurried inside and locked the door, keeping him out. Overwhelmed, she smashed all the lights in her house. She didn't want to see any more strange things. Sydney shut herself in and stopped talking to anyone. A few days later, Paul came to her house. He saw how upset she was and took her back to the hospital. That night, while Sydney slept, a voice called her name. She woke up and saw Lisa standing there. Lisa hadn't spoken much before. Now, she said she was leaving. Lisa walked off. Sydney chased after her. She saw a shadow ahead and remembered the woman. She yelled at Lisa not to go with it. Lisa didn't hear her. She kept walking and vanished into the corridor. Sydney sank to the floor in the corner and cried, helpless. The next day, Helen told Sydney that Lisa had died. Sydney thought about the picture Lisa gave her. She asked Helen who was in it. Helen said it was Sydney. Sydney said it wasn't her face. She looked in a mirror. The reflection showed someone else, not her. Sydney realized her visions might come from her cornea donor. She asked Paul who the donor was. Paul said he couldn't tell her. It was private, and he'd lose his medical license if he did. Sydney was about to leave the hospital when a woman walked in. In the elevator, Sydney saw the boy in the raincoat again. The woman saw Sydney's face and asked if her son was there. Paul didn't say how the boy died. Sydney guessed he might have taken his own life because of his parents' pressure. At home, Sydney stared into the mirror. She asked the reflection what it wanted. Her hands started moving on their own. She had another vision. Sydney decided she had to find out who her donor was. Paul came over. He agreed to help her this time. They found the donor's address and went to her father's house. The old woman didn't want them there. Sydney mentioned his daughter, her donor. She looked at her eyes and recognized them right away. The old woman said her daughter was named Anna. Anna could see things others couldn't, like death coming. When she was a kid, she'd sit outside a house and cry. Soon, someone in that family would die. The villagers thought Anna brought bad luck. They called her a witch and hated her. While she spoke, Sydney saw a shadow beside the old woman. She fainted suddenly. When she woke up, she said something odd. She told Sydney his daughter would kill herself. She hoped Sydney could save her. After that, she went to the hospital. Sydney walked into Anna's old room. She started seeing Anna's past. Anna worked with her mother in a factory. She saw a fire coming and tried to warn everyone. They called her crazy instead. The fire happened anyway. Afterward, they blamed Anna for it. She couldn't handle the guilt and took her own life. Sydney woke up. It was night. She and Paul headed back. They hit a traffic jam. The police had closed the road. Sydney saw a little girl she recognized from her dreams. She remembered her nightmare. Thousands of black shadows poured into a bus nearby. Sydney ran toward it. She saw a car with explosives and understood. Anna wanted her to stop a disaster. Sydney yelled for everyone to get off the bus. They thought she was insane. She shouted there was a bomb to make them move. People started getting off. A robber crashed into the car. It caught fire. Sydney was still inside. Paul broke the window to pull her out. The car exploded. Glass flew everywhere. To shield her, Paul took the hit. The shards cut Sydney's eyes. She lost her sight again. In the end, Sydney is blind once more. Maybe this is her fate. The movie ends.